Guys. I'm back, even though I posted only 2 days ago. So if you can guess by the title and the thumbnail, this is going to be the third and last part to one of my documentaries that I've been meaning to end for a while. Here's a fun fact though. This video was supposed to be uploaded like 2 days ago on Saturday, but the previous file was so big that my iCloud storage just couldn't take it, so I had to delete it. Yeah, it was like 36 minutes long, and that was taking up so much space that the iCloud storage was literally filled, so I had to delete it. But don't worry, I did make a promise that this is gonna be the longest episode and longest video I uploaded yet, and that promise will not be broken. So if you haven't watched the previous parts, please go watch it, because if I do a recap, I'm gonna give you guys mixed information. So as Captain Zahari might have made the plane disappear from the ground, but behind him, 238 people were waiting to be flown to Beijing, and the first officer was making coffee and would be returning in a moment. If he wanted to somehow carry out his plan, he had to somehow find a way to incapacitate everyone except for him on board. And for that, he had with him a rather unconventional natural weapon, air, or rather, thin air. That's the name. Because on an altitude of 35,000 feet, there's only enough air to make the human body survive for a few minutes. After that, something by the name of hypoxia, I think that's what you call it, starts to take effect, and you pass out. But if you still aren't brought down to a breathable altitude, it goes worse. Much worse. So, in order to get the thin air into the plane, Captain Zahari had to somehow find a way to make holes into the plane. And he was able to do that, because on the bottom of every plane, there's like two holes or two valves, affectionately named for this situation, outflow valves. If these two valves were open, the air inside the plane would come rushing out. So with the help of his two fingers, he prevented the engines from bringing in new air into the plane, and he put the cabin pressurization from automatic to manual. Now he held the lifeline of everyone on board. And before he could do anything else, he put on his oxygen mask and started the oxygen flow for him. The way the oxygen mask is kind of weird. Well, when you guys breathe, this is like, right? But an oxygen mask is kind of weird, kind of different. Instead of just doing regular inflow and out, inhale and exhale, the oxygen mask forces the lungs to take in new air. Hopefully I'm not wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong for this. Hopefully I'm not wrong for that. It forces the air into the lungs and then makes it exhale it. I think that only happens when you first wear it, but I don't quite know. Anyways, with his own oxygen, he flipped the switches that opened the outflow valves, and right as he did that, all the air inside the plane came rushing out. Everyone who was asleep in that plane was shaken awake, and they quickly put on their oxygen mask before hypoxia got to them. First Officer Freak, who just completed making coffee, was also jolted though. Who was also shaken up. He only had mere seconds or minutes before hypoxia got to him. So he got to one of the cabin crew stations and put on an oxygen mask which was connected to an oxygen tank. But before he could fully finish it, something strange also happened. The plane started turning sharply to the left. Up front, in the cockpit, Captain Zari had already initiated the next step of his plan. He turned his plane around to return to Malaysia, not to land, but to fly past it. He was turning the plane so sharply to the left that the automatic bank angle warning was literally blaring in the cockpit. But he needed this plane to be, but he needed his turn to be sharp. He was literally right between the border between Thai Airways and Malaysian airspace. The last thing he wanted was to be in an airspace that he was not allowed to enter to. I mean, even I wouldn't want that if I was a pilot. So, the cabin crew and first officer Freak were slammed to the wall because of the dramatic change, and also the sharp turn. But Freak was confused the most. Nowhere in a pilot's safety manual does it say you have to turn sharply left when the cabin loses pressure. You're actually / obviously supposed to descend to a breathable altitude and then continue on. First off, Freak, fearing the worst, and made his way to the cockpit door and entered an entry passcode into the keypad, and he waited. But the entry light stayed red, and Freak tried again, and this time entering the code slowly and carefully. But still, the light stayed red. He was kind of getting impatient, so he started slamming his oxygen tank against the door, but still nothing, because the cockpit doors aren't supposed to withstand any types of actions like that. Ever since 9/11, I'm not gonna make a video on that though. Maybe. Captain Zari slowly moved his plane above Malaysia. He had flew over the space before several times, so he could easily tell where he was. He on the security camera that the way he saw First Officer Freak literally banging his oxygen tank on the door, and took it as a way of his plan working. But he had two things proving this opposite. One was something kind of basic. It's called primary radar. This type of radar, it just tells how high an object is. It can only tell how far or how high an object is, though. It can't tell what it is or where it is. It just tells how high it is. But the second thing was kind of even bigger and greater. Excuse me. And it was that Malaysian Airlines had figured out that MH370 was missing. At Ho Chi Minh Airport, where the plane was supposed to make contact after Lumper radar, controllers had noticed that they hadn't received the call from the plane. Usually it takes a few minutes to make connection, and they thought that the plane was just having some difficulties. But that time already passed. Ho Chi Minh decided to call Malaysian Airlines to see if they could locate the plane. They checked it, and it showed the plane being in Taiwanese airspace. But in reality, it was so far from that. Way far. And when Taiwanese said that they haven't made contact either, it was Malaysian Airlines knew an issue that the plane was missing. Back in disguise, Zahari gazed his sight on Pasang Island. It was his home island, where he grew up and where he was born. And he wanted / needed and decided to pass by one last time. First Officer Freak still knew there was one more way to make make communication. He passed by the seat of a passenger was who were now probably unconscious or worse, and went to the window. He pulled out his phone and saw that he still had connections, but it was only in 3 wires. Then 2, then 1. When it came to 0, he knew it was over. The last way he could ever make connection was gone. And realizing that his oxygen tank was going to run out, he slowly made his way back to the cockpit door and fell onto the floor. And everything went black, then silent. Captain Zari was seeing this in the camera. He saw the first officer's body on the floor, motionless. The last thing that could stop his plan was gone. Just to check if anyone was left, he made an announcement saying for any flight crew to come cockpit for assistance. Nobody did. Zari had done it. He made a plane completely disappear with no communication to the ground. And after a while, he flew the last area where her primary radar could reach him. After that, he turned his plane to another left, aiming towards the southern Indian Ocean, which stretched for miles in every direction. And after that, he powered back on the system computers that he had shut down, and some of the systems that were up jumped back to life. He also powered the SATCOM back on, but didn't connect it back to ACARS. But he had done a mistake. Not the reconnecting ACARS part, but turned the SATCOM back on. When he powered the SATCOM back on, it sent a login request to a ground station in Perth, Australia, asking to log onto the network. And this login request created a ring, namely an arc. This was a hourly cycle. The ground station in Perth, Australia, kept on making hourly handshake rings like these every other hour to make sure if the plane was still in disguise or not. But Zari didn't even know about this. He was oblivious to what was happening. All he knew is that if he crashed his plane down inside the south of the Indian Ocean, it would take days, weeks, if not months and years to find the plane. He had also after he had powered the systems back on, he did this second to last step of his plan. He started increasing the altitude of his plane higher and higher, because the higher the plane is, the more hardly it would land on the ground with more force. And the more force it has when it lands, the more less pieces it will make. And now he finally could do his last step. He opened the outflow valves again, but this time didn't put on his oxygen mask. Hypoxia started to take effect on him. Everything went black, then silent. Now, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was now officially a ghost plane. Everyone on that plane was gone, unconscious. Even after that, though, the SATCOM login request kept on going, because as I said, it's an hourly thing. It happened. The ground station in Perth, Australia, kept on making sure that if the plane was still in disguise or not. 3 hours later, in Beijing, where the the air traffic control were waiting to see the plane in their view, because that's where it was supposed to land originally. But that time came and went, and still nothing. The six-star formed, but then something shifted. The right-hand engine ran out of fuel, forcing the left-hand engine to go into max power. And this caused a slight unbalance. It made the plane kind of start turning gently to the right. And after that, the left-hand engine also burnt out. Now with nothing to keep it balanced on the skies, it started going down, down, and down to the ground. Down and down to the ground. Nothing to stop it. But because the two engines were out of fuel, everything, all the electricity in the plane just shut down. Power ran out. The power was completely gone. Now the plane was descending slowly to the ground with no stability and with no power at all. But even if the plane's power was out and was descending, as I already said, it still had one more thing up its sleeve. Out behind the tail of the plane, there's like a small little electric unit called the Auxiliary Power Unit, or the APU. This APU, this unit is not used that much in planes because in most flights planes land before they run out of electricity. But anyways, even though it only helped make power for a while, it was still gonna give a huge help to this mystery. Because when the APU came back on, one of the things to come back on to life was the SATCOM. It would send a logon request to the ground asking to connect to a network. But this was a weird request part though, because every single other arc except for the first one before it was created by the ground station to the plane, not the plane to the ground station. But it was still a huge help nonetheless. But that was the last. But after that, that was the last logon request and last handshake made with the plane to the ground. And it was also the last logon request that created the seventh arc, which was the last connection that plane ever made. At 8:19 a.m., the APU had shut down immediately, and the plane was continuing to descend slowly at a normal rate. But minutes later, at 8:21, the plane was literally falling from the sky near supersonic speed, and after that time, sorry, that was my dad. And after that time, after 8:21, the plane, sorry for that, slammed to the ocean floor of the Indian Ocean. Even though most of the pieces were shattered on impact and were laying on the ground, some of the pieces started floating towards the many islands near it. And these were also found months and years later after the investigation. Some of the things that were found was a plastic frame of the in-flight entertainment system, one of the wings, one of the right flaperons that controlled the flaps, and one of the wings of the plane. There were also several other pieces that were found, but those are one of the main. Now you might be thinking that Malaysian Airlines was easily able to find the plane, right? But that's the problem. If that plane had already been found right now and the black box data was already recovered, I would not be explaining this mystery like this. That's because Malaysian Airlines Flight 370's wreckage and black boxes have still not been found till yet. The search is still ongoing, but with little hope to finding it. Oh, wait, sorry. I meant the search is already ended. It was called off by Malaysian Airlines like 10 years ago. But there are some other things I can give you before I end this video for good. A small team or a big team of investigators have used another type of search technique. It's called WSPR. I don't know what it stands for, sadly, but if you can just call it a whisper. It's like a low radio wave that tracks any type of movement of planes or anything else in the sky, any other machine. And this team had used Whisper to track if it has sensed Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 after the 7th arc, and it turns out it had. After the 7th arc was formed, the right-hand engine had burned out after that. And because of that, the plane was starting to slowly fall, and also started going on a zigzag formation. That also happens when the left-hand engine has to go in full power. But the Whisperer didn't also give help in that. It also might have given us help in finding the possible crash site of that plane. Crash site of that plane. But we can't say for sure. And I also heard that the investigation has been restarted, but that's the small information I know. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. But anyways, that's as much as you can say about this documentary. And that was also the end of this long documentary for me. Thank you for waiting on this huge project of mine. It took me a while to finally film it, even though I already said that I had already made this video last week Saturday. As I already said, it was so long and so big that the iCloud storage got filled, so I had to delete it. But I hope this doesn't do the same. Anyways, now that this documentary is finally over, I can finally start work on other new documentaries for the future. And I have several ideas in mind. Now that part's over, I also have to say three more. I also have to say three more things before I finally end this video. As you know, if you check my recent community posts and also my YouTube channel, we have literally passed 50 subscribers on YouTube. I know that might not seem like a lot, but it's a huge milestone for me. I was thinking I would never reach 50 subscribers in this fast, but here we are. And in order for that, I have made this documentary video, and I'm also tried to make it the longest video I've ever posted yet. That's the first thing. Second thing is, my YouTube channel has been on YouTube for like 3 years now. I created back in February of 2023, and now it's Now we have already passed February of 2026. So I have literally spent 3 whole entire years making this series of mine. Last thing is one of the last thing I have to say, the third, is that while we have to celebrate my channel's anniversary, there's also another type of anniversary I also have to celebrate. And that's the anniversary of this documentary series. The very first documentary I ever made was uploaded on March 1st of last year. And now it's already March 18th. So this documentary series has been going on for a whole entire year. And if you might thinking, why are you celebrating these such small milestones? Well, it's a huge milestone for me. One of the last things I have to say before I end this is thank you all for the recent support in all on my production. Thank you all. I never thought I would reach this point. Never thought that behind small videos like these would entertain all of you. So thank you all for that. Finally, last thing, if you check out my recent community post and go very down, the fifth announcement I made in that community post was to check out one of my relatives Samriddhi's YouTube channel. I also kept a photo of her YouTube channel, so if you want to go check that out. If you go check out her channel and if you like it and subscribe to it, it would mean a lot for me. Even though it won't mean a lot for you, but it would mean a lot for me. She's a little girl who I know will achieve great things. So please, for my happiness and also greatness, please go check out that channel of hers. Here's a little secret. I've even somewhat appeared in one of her videos. Even though she only uploads shorts, I've even appeared in one of them somewhat. Let's see if you can usually find it. If you can literally, when you check out her channel, you can already tell which one I'm in. Hope you can do that. So, yeah. Thank you all for supporting my whole entire production series. And also, one more thing. I know I keep on saying one more thing after another, but I have to say this one more. For those who might know or might not know, I also have an Instagram. If I can, I'll try to edit it here, or you can just go check it out. The name of my Instagram is also given in my YouTube description. I think some of you follow me, some of you don't, but it doesn't mean that. But I don't quite care. If you want to go check it out, you can. If you don't, stop. It's okay. The name for my YouTube Instagram is given in my YouTube description. Please go check it out if you want. So anyways, thank you all for waiting for this long-awaited third and last part of this documentary. And thank you all for helping me pass 50 subscribers. We are so close to getting to 100. And also, thank you all for supporting me for 3 whole years on YouTube. And also, thank you all for supporting this whole entire documentary series. The very first documentary I ever made was on my own country's constitution history. I cover in this documentary series of mine. I cover international and also national topics. Even though out of all the documentaries of videos I made, only 2 of them are from my country, the Kari Stones and the Nepal Constitution, and every other one is international. But it's just what I want to do. And as for the future documentaries, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna stick to international parts. The national things are kind of hard. Even though I live here, it's kind of hard to get all the correct information and put them together. I know I might be just I've just been giving you filler after I finish covering this whole entire documentary of mine, but sorry for that. If you want to leave and click off this video, you can just can't. I'm not gonna stop you. I can't even stop you anyways. So I know I promised this to be my longest video yet to celebrate reaching 50 subscribers, but I sadly can't. There's nothing I can talk about to keep this video for another few minutes. So if you want to know which documentary I'm thinking I'm doing next, for those who live in Nepal, live in Nepal, well, most of you do, you can already understand by this hint. Let's just say for my next documentary is gonna be about a huge windy storm. Not the storm that came here 2 days ago, not that. But something that creates huge storms besides thunderstorms. It starts with a T, ends with an O. And it's 7 letters long. Can you guess what it's going to be about? It's kind of easy. Let's just see how many of you can figure out what documentary is coming next on this. The script hasn't been I haven't started writing a script for that documentary yet because I wanted to get this one out. But let's just see how many of you can solve it. Let's just see how many of you can solve and figure out what type of documentary is coming next on for me. Let's just see how many of you are clever. I don't know how to end this video, so bye. Thank you all.